welcome to another episode with me, Onyx. And what I'm going to currently talk about is having your magical practice a living art. And I was making a video and I was like 15 minutes into it, and I was all into the tree of life and I was all into astrology and I was going all these places. And then it didn't really make sense until a little bit later because I was just super excited about my last video, and I was just on that tidal wave of super excitement of having a great day. Um, and then I was like, I'm just gonna let whatever come in, and maybe say something. And I was just like, what? That was a stupid. It didn't work. Like by the time it came together, I was 15 minutes in, and then I was like, let's just start over. And so it's like, okay, let's get our thoughts together. And I was going to make the whole video on just like all these really cool, weird experiences I've had with Scorpios. And then the reality is when I started talking about one of the persons that came to mind, it was how he shifted my perspective from everything's just thought and theory. We read it in a book, we see it on a board, we hear it out of a teacher's mouth, we see it on a screen, we punch a thing, it's a code, and then there's this huge gap in reality between a living experience and thought knowledge. And so meaning is, there's only meaning when there's a symbol, and the symbol has to be tied to something real. Otherwise, there's no meaning. So a pentagram means nothing unless it's associated with something like magic. For me, a pentagram means power, but it also means balance, because when you look at like the 6-rayed star or you look at the 5-rayed star, it doesn't matter any way you turn it, it's balanced. So you may not know this, but pentagrams and hexagrams mean balance. Doesn't matter, in a weird way, you can't do an inverted pentagram because it's balanced. Any way you move it, it has the other 4 points balancing that direction. So you point it down and you think, oh, evil. 4 are now pointing up to balance it. You point it up, 4 are pointing up to spirit. You want to work with that energy, you're going to need 4 points kind of pointing down to ground it in. And so some of the coolest psychology stuff I was looking at recently, the therapists are saying, spiritual bypassing and archetypes, and you need to ground it in. I'm like, the occult knew that already, you guys. And all your psychology came out of the occult, right? But I'm obviously team occult, team Slytherin. But this is about making it a living art. This is where the phoenix comes in. The phoenix is a firebird, and it is the ever eternal spirit. The flesh may die, the form may change, and what comes out of the ashes is the ever living eternal flame. And so I love the phoenix so much. We've been together for so long, and the symbol connects with me, and it was something I actually had to grow into. It's like, have you ever had a piece of yourself that maybe you thought was different and unacceptable, that you pushed it away and you judged it and thought negative, and then you learn to embrace it, and it's that thing that you thought was so offensive or weird or disgraceful was actually becomes the most beautiful, powerful thing about you. That's how I felt towards my phoenix power and my phoenix energy. I was like, I love the phoenix, but a lot of people associate that with women. And women usually get a negative in the gay world. You're too feminine, you're too gay. But they also get a negative in the straight man's world. Women and men having feminine sides to their personality kind of get frowned upon, and we really think about it and they're feared. But we don't need to go into all that. But that was just kind of the backstory of why my phoenix energy was in the shadows. Uh, but has come around into this beautiful empowerment, a symbol of higher self, a symbol of this transformational alchemy wisdom. So, in a weird way, the phoenix is, you could say it's the embodiment, it's what makes things alive. It's the spirit behind rituals, it's the spirit of it, it's the living life force. It's it's so deep, it's beyond death. So, like, the outer form dies through the portal of death, birth. So it's also about facing your shadows, facing your fears, going through the ascension process, which every wizard, witch, new ager, spiritual person must go through to kundalini purify the chakras, to rebirth. So Full Circle was the name of my last channel that I did, and it was the serpent embodying the same principles. The serpent and the phoenix go together in my world. They are like, they go through the transformation you don't see with the phoenix is the serpent. So they go together. Like, that's my team. Um, yeah, but this whole video is about making your spiritual magical practice alive. When it's alive, it's spiritual. And then your symbols have power because they're referring to something that exists for you. That, and the meaning doesn't matter because it's alive. So if you work with fire, you light candles, you go camping, you've always had a fire in your fireplace, and fire is a very comfortable thing for you, then when you're referring to it symbolically, there's a connection of experience. There's an experiential connection. And so it makes your magic more powerful. So, yeah. Did I tell the story already? That was before I deleted the last video. So I met this Scorpio. I was an online dating site, and I was attracted to this guy. He looked really scary. He was like in a swimming pool, and he had like this black beard, and he was like tall. He had these dark eyes and bushy eyebrows and long hair. He looked like this like primal, beautiful man coming up out of the water. And I was like, ooh, intriguing. I'm going to click the like button. And then he responded. And we got to talking. And he was a Scorpio sun sign, Cancer moon sign. So, of course, his pictures was him like in water and him looking dark and mysterious, yet relaxed. So you may not know this about water signs, but they're very social creatures, very curious, in a weird way down to earth because they're seeking earth. And so we just had a really nice conversation, and I read his chart, and as a gift he sent me a book, and the book was it didn't exactly say it was Christianity, but it kind of was. This book on like the living Christ or the living God, something like that. And I was reflecting on that. I remember when I was in the dojo, years ago, learning martial arts. And I was like, I want the ceremony and I want the ritual and I want the costume and I want the formalities in my karate class. Where's the spirit of martial arts? You know? And I believed the headmaster had that spirit. And he was half Chinese. And he literally, so ever since he was little, he liked Bruce Lee. That was a hero for him and very fitting. And so he kind of grew up in a different generation and has real roots in China. And so for him, becoming a martial art and devoting, he became a nutritionist, an engineer, and I think one other thing, but he ended up having many champion trophies. Like he fought in some big tournaments, and it was a living thing for him. And it showed in the way he walked, in the way he breathed, in his stances, his forms, his techniques. And for him, everything was about grounding in a solid stance. And if you don't have a stance, you have nothing. And the other teacher was from the West, younger, more of a technician of the art. And he comes from a really good teacher too. But his teacher was local and from the West and didn't have the same inspiration. Like it's different when you say, my mom, my dad, my country, my culture is literally the birthplace of these type of martial arts versus, well, I really liked comic books and me and my friends did martial arts and then I found a really great teacher and now here I am as a third degree brown belt teaching classes hoping to get my black belt. That's different than the head of the of our school who lived it, was a third degree black belt. um, and so to have that experience where one person kind of embodied the essence of martial arts and the other one embodied the essence of good technique of martial arts. Both of them had two different perspectives and they embodied them very well. And literally, so they have two different styles, two different expressions of their knowledge and experience of the martial art. And so in that the style that we were training, you literally say your name with the martial art because the truth of it is whatever you got out of your training, it still went through all your filters and all your wisdom and all your knowledge. It's a part of you. It won't be the same as a person next to you. There'll be things that are fundamentally different. Those small fundamental differences become huge differences. It's a whole new style. You can only do you. So if I was in class, I would say, this is Onyx purple belt style. You know, this is Onyx's karate style. And my teacher would say his name. This is like Mike's karate. This is Dave's karate. When we were talking to each other. So we're all doing the same style, but we put our name with it because the truth of it is. So the way I do magic and the way my apprentice does magic is way different. But yet, the founding principles are the same. If you got the principles, you can do the art. And so this is something that you don't really get in books. You have to have a mentor. You have to meet a saint in order to fully understand the impact of a saint. You have to be around someone who's enlightened or awake to then go, oh, that's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. To experience is to know. So And that brings the spirit into it. And in a weird way, all your work, all your devotion, if you're kind of like detached, if you're expecting it to come to you, it's more of a religion. If it's a persona you're wearing, like I'm gothic this year, I'm vegan next year, and now I'm interested in occult, so now I'm an occultist. You're like putting on a coat, but it's gonna be way different than someone who is like, you know, honestly, I can't help but grab that book on occult and read it. And I just can't help but I really feel like it's important that I sit down and meditate and work on this. You know, on the list of priorities, doing this is more important than doing that. So you end up finding your path on the path, and then it becomes authentic and real. And because you're devoted to it, because it's aligned with your actual personality, you're like, you know what? I tried on that coat and I found out it was a perfect fit. I'm not taking it off. I'm going to keep it till it's worn out. I'm going to like put a patch on it when there's a hole. I'm keeping it. That's my coat. Then I say, congratulations, your whatever that is. If for you, if that coat was a witch's coat, and that way, that path gets you to the same endpoint, congratulations, you're a true witch. Or congratulations, you're a true psychic or a medium or an occultist or a wizard or a sorcerer. So you can go. So it's about being authentic and bringing the spirit into it. So if the ritual is, so we've tried it in the occult world. We've done uh, bare minimum, the most minimal ritual tools, the most minimal ritual actions. Just try to make it a formula, and it added certain things and lost certain things. Then we did elaborate rituals, robes, candles, incense, long verses, long chants. It added some stuff and it subtracted some stuff. They were both out of balance. So, too much ceremony, too much formula slash ritual, you lose something. So, the magic is an art. It's a martial art. It's an art and a science. So, alchemy was the bringing religion, art, and science together. It was creating a golden age. In a weird way, you have to do that with your craft. You have to bring your own spiritual symbols. It could be tied to a culture. That would maybe be the religion that speaks to your psychology. So religion also plays with symbols of psychology. Then you have to make it an art. Artists are kind of channeling something divine. They're being inspired by what's around them. Art is also a reinterpretation through a different medium of something. So you can look at a photo and it goes through this alchemy process, and now it's a painting. And it was translated through your experience of it. So we can't get away from experience. The science would be the formula, the ritual, act, the bringing it all together, the ceremony, the reenactment, the theatrics, the performance. And in a weird way, it's always happening. That's what life is. You can focus on any of those 3 points or all of them at once, but they're always working. There's a mechanical operation going, the science. There is an experience, artistic expression, interpretation, the art. You know, oh, and the religion, the meaning, the value it has for you. So, of everything I've learned through the occult and psychic training, the biggest value for me is it kind of just gave me a direction in life. I had somewhere to go. No, I'm not going to drink with my friends. No, I'm not going to sit mindlessly watching YouTube or a video or a movie. No, I'm not going to just waste my time. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm interested in something. It kind of kept me out of trouble. a lot of trouble. And then I was also able to use that wisdom for my own psychological evaluation to assessing other people. So it kind of gave me a deeper insight into people. So out of the occult, chemistry was born. Out of the occult, psychology was born. The root was still occult. And so when you're an occultist, you can birth your own psychology. You can birth your own chemistry, your own alchemy. So it's almost like it's the great birthing vortex. And so, in a weird way, well, yay, this is all about occult, right? Um, there's a plug for occult. No, that's just the path I took for many years. And in a weird way, once it's opened that door, the door is open. So, but the whole point of this video is to make it alive for you. And that means it has to go out into your real world. It has to be practical, that you can apply it to your job, to your conversations. There has to, you're working with energy, you're working with intention. You're working, when you see life as a ritual, it's like, whoa, so then it brings mindfulness. And so there's just so many levels to it. So the benefits are endless. What you can get out of it could be very personal. It could also end up being something very global and profound. You can apply it to anything. So that it's very versatile. But the reality is, we're just talking about making it alive. So let's go back to that story. The very interesting Scorpio who gave me that religious little book. And it made, in that book, it really made me think, do we really feel the grass and the energy in it? Do we really acknowledge the sun, or is it just some weird light bulb in the sky, in some matrix hologram that people are really into, conspiracy theory? And I'm like, what would happen if you really connect with the sun? It's not just a word anymore. It's not just a symbol. It's not just a sign. It's not just an angelic being. No, it's a living, breathing powerhouse, source of healing and life generating and life evaporating experience. What would it be like if you formed a deep relationship with air? It wasn't just incense. It wasn't just clouds. But you start acknowledging the invisible between us. That space between us is filled with air. And you feel it, like we don't live without air. So in a weird way, it's your life support. Air is greater than you are. The sun, greater than you are. The earth, greater than you are. And so you got to form these relationships that you would get to what's considered low magic, only because it's of the earthly plane, how we experience it through our five senses. It's just a term, but it's like, so one thing, I'm very into crystals and stones, and in a weird way, not exactly for their metaphysical religious properties, but I want to see for myself. So, they say selenite clears, it doesn't need to be cleansed, and all this stuff. I've sometimes I find myself in the worst work environments, and my energy was overloaded with other people's energy, and I was too tired. I felt like I was on my deathbed. I grabbed my selenite, and it starts flushing all the toxic energy out of me. I'm like, whoa, it feels like I'm out in nature with trees and stuff. I usually get that type of flush when I'm grounded. I'm too tired and it's too cold to go put my feet in the wet grass and be out there and the bugs, and I just sleep with my crystal. And it was clearing out my chakras, and I could feel it. And so then I look up selenite, and it talks about clearing and attunement. And I'm like, yeah, I have physical living evidence. I have a living experience with selenite. It's now a part of my must-have toolkits as an essential item. It has now been bumped up from, oh, just a crystal in my collection of 100 crystals to now you're in the top 2 category. So different times in your life, certain crystals, stones, things can be tools. And the tools are to get you where you should know where you're going. It shouldn't just be vague or once a week or depending upon your needs. You should be able to look at your whole life and say, I'm going this direction with my life. And in a weird way, all your rituals in some subtle way are aligning you with that. All your oils, all your crystals, all the words, all the jobs, every experience you have is taking you down this one path. It could be kind of a big, wide path. Like, why am I in customer service? Well, God damn it, I'm going to master understanding people. What better way to get out in the field and meet them on the everyday level when it's not just one-on-one in the office, being a financial advisor or a massage therapist. It's like you get a part of them, but not all of them. So I was a massage therapist for a long time, and I physically got to know hundreds of different bodies with different issues, different ages, all walks of life. So I experienced that. Now I'm doing retail, so it's a lot of communication. And it's a whole different thing. When people are coming in for therapy, they're usually happy that they feel better. When it's just everyday retail, they're demanding, they want what they want, they're selfish, they're entitled, and you get to see a whole different side of the human experience. And I'm like, what? And I sometimes have to remind myself, I'm like, why am I here? Why? It's like, oh, because I want to get to the point where dealing with people, being open and spiritual, it doesn't faze me. I want to be stronger. So I'm putting myself in these situations. That could be considered a magical ritual of self-transformation. And the magic is alive. So, yeah, kind of coming back to that. The aliveness. So I really thought about that, and I thought about my family's religion, where it's very hypocritical, where you can read, you can pray, but you don't have to really feel it. They talk about love and togetherness and family and community and support. They might hand out money, but it's not really, it's a, I'll give you money so I don't have to think about it attitude. I wash my hands clean. I am not involved. I'm not a part of it. Once I've given you the money, I trust in God and karma and that it will work out, heaven and hell. So in that religion, there's no sense of responsibility for the earth. There's no real thanks for the food being ingested. They say it all. They say it all. It looks like it, but you don't feel it. It's dead. It's a dead religion with a whole bunch of talk. And so it's like how much of our lives are talk. We sit back and we read the occult books, we do the rituals, but we don't have a teacher. And the teacher gives you what it's like to physically be around someone who's done rituals, who's had contact with different beings. Their energy is different, and they have stories, they have a culture built into them that they kind of share with you. It's more than, so you can't just be with ideas. You just can't listen to the words of Buddha. You can't just listen to the words of Christ and be there. You have to feel the presence, the living embodiment. You have to embody your higher self, your holy guardian angel. You have to embody. You have to be connected to it and embodied to it to truly be doing high magic. So for most people, they're just getting to a place to get connected. A lot of people don't really get fully connected. And in martial arts, it takes you anywhere from 5 to 10 years to get a black belt. So why would it take you any less to connect and make and get good at magic or get good at your craft, your art? So expect 10 years. The video is about to stop, but really it was just about, you got to put the soul back in, and that's through experience, and that's through being it. And so invite spirits all you want. It's a superficial, unfriendly encounter until you have the passion, until you are it, until you're fully committed, until it is you. You become the magic. Then you're a true wizard. Then you're a true magician. And then it's alive. You're working with living substance. And shit just works. So that's it. You gotta invite the spirit. Clean out your mind, clean out your body, dedicate yourself. The dedication isn't something you do on a weekend with a ritual, then you say, now I'm it. No, you've dedicated yourself. You've chosen a life path. You've chosen a commitment of 10 years or so. Know your level. What you get in is what you get out. So if you're superficial, your experience will be superficial. If you're all logic, your experience might be logic. You need to have it balanced. You need to have it going on all levels. Like, it needs, when it's alive, it gives you something. There's a return flow energy. So that's really how I separate, like an authentic master of the craft is, oh yeah, you can feel it coming a mile away. You know that person's psychic. Oh, you know that person is working with spirits. You know that person is a shapeshifter, wizard, reality bender, whatever you want to call it. It's not borrowed. You can't even borrow it from your own culture. You have to embody it. And then it's alive. It's alive through you. You're interacting with the universe. The universe is a living being. If so, your magic really won't be alive until you're connected to a living universe. That's how you bring the passion into it. The art is alive. You're interacting with it. It's kind of like a co-creation, but that's a shitty word for the true experience of it.